Chapter 6 highlights Light and Shadow. Near the track in Tawana was the largest house of prostitution in the world, called the Molino Rojo or Red Mill. It employed over 300 girls and took customer service seriously. Most of the bug boys visited the house. The price was equal to the pay for galloping a horse. Jockeys were known for riding hard by day and playing hard by night. They were steadily patrons of the Molino Rojo and Turf Club Saloon. They chased naked girls down hallways. By 1928, both Pollard and Wolf were at the top tier of North American horse racing. Pollard was known for his miracle work with tough and neurotic horses. He received over $20,000 time for 20th and total purse earnings. Wolf did even better. He earned 100,000 and tied 16th among full-time riders. Pollard was well liked by everyone at the track. He was known for his books, storytelling, and offbeat sense of humor. He liked to play practical jokes. Although he teased the younger jockeys, he also watched out for them. Nobody ever messed with Red. Pollard was known for quoting Shakespeare and swearing a blue streak. He was often found telling stories or smart-assing race officials. If Pollard was a racetrack jester, then Wolf was king. The crowds and the press adored the cowboy. Like Pollard, he was kind to the young riders. They wore his hand-me-down cowboy boots, even if it made their feet bleed. Wolf could get away with anything. One day he ripped his pants. When he was told that he was sticking out, Wolf just rode to the cheering grandstand and asked for a towel to cover himself before posing for a photo. They both stayed away from the prostitutes. Wolf fell in love with Genevieve, a gorgeous 16-year-old local diner. A gorgeous 16-year-old at a local diner. A year later, at age 21, he married her. Pollard enjoyed the drinking and getting into fistfights. He loved Tawana, and being at the top of his game, he was so happy. The glory days of Tawana ended in a bizarre way. A manure pile behind the racetrack had become an enormous mountain over the decade. Jockeys used it like a sauna. They dug a hole, climbed in, and sweated off weight. In the 1920s, a giant flood raced through the town. The mountain of manure was uprooted and wiped out the entire grandstand as it moved towards the sea. Horses fled to the hills. After the flood, a new racetrack, Agua Caliente, was built. Wolf quickly became its top jockey. However, he was fired in 1934 when he was found at home reading a cowboy magazine instead of getting ready at the track for an important race. Pollard took his place and won $23,000, his biggest payoff ever. It would be 4 years before he could repay Wolf for the break. Wolf suffered sudden bouts of falling asleep. He was diagnosed with type 1 insulin-dependent diabetes. In the 1930s, diabetes management was hellish. Wolf was often sick from the insulin. highs and lows. Wolf had to be thin for his career, yet needed healthy eating habits to survive his disease. When his weight went up to 115 pounds, he only rode top horses with high impulse. Wolf still won so much that he remained at the top of the national jockey rankings. He had to be careful to protect himself from even simple cuts. He was scared about fainting in the saddle. Wolf gambled with his life against his desire to ride. Pollard had his own secret. When exercising a horse one morning, a rock flew up and smacked his head, leaving him blind in his left eye. He lost depth. He lost his depth perception and ability to see horses to his outside. If anyone found out, it would have ended his career. He took a tremendous risk by riding. A ban on gambling in Mexico ended its glory days of racing. Wolf and Polar returned to the states where gambling was now legal. Their careers took different paths. Wolf won the Santa Ana Handicap on a long shot in 1934. His career took off. Polar didn't win a major race for years and soon started losing his weekday mounts as well. Perhaps his blind eye was making him lose. Polar then met an agent named Yummy. While his status as agent was dubious, he was very loyal and had a car. Yummy and Polar traveled the racetracks looking for work. Polar's luck continued to worsen as they totaled the car in the middle of nowhere. They had no choice but to start hitchhiking with just 27 cents, some Bow Wow wine, and a sugar cube. They reached the Detroit Fairgrounds, where Tom Smith was wondering how to find a strong, intuitive jockey for Seabiscuit. The horse had been in a terror, trying to take big chunks out of the grooms. No one wanted to go near him. As they worked their way through the barns, no one wanted Pollard or Yummy. They were dirty, tired, and shaky from the accident. As they met Smith, he offered his hand to Pollard and gestured towards Seabiscuit. Pollard offered him the only thing in his pocket, a sugar cube. Seabiscuit took it and nuzzled his shoulder. A connection was made between horse and man. Part 2, Chapter 7, Learn Your Horse. Grooms feared Seabiscuit's ferocious anger. Smith tried to gain his trust and showered him with affection and carrots. He carefully nursed him with special diets and homemade liniment. Smith knew that companionship often helped an unhappy horse. He tried a goat, but Seabiscuit just grabbed it in his mouth and tossed it over the door. Next, he tried Pumpkin, a friendly and cheerful horse. They became lifelong friends. Soon, Smith introduced a dog and a spider monkey, which both helped Seabiscuit to relax. Seabiscuit's first outings on the track were a disaster. He did the opposite of what the rider wanted. Smith then told the rider to let Seabiscuit do it his way. This made a huge difference in Seabiscuit's attitude. He never again fought a rider. Pollard studied Pollard studied the horse and decided the whip should not be used unless absolutely necessary. The prior trainer, Fitzgerald, used the whip heavily on Seabiscuit. Pollard knew that if Seabiscuit was pushed around, all he would do was push back. Pollard's insight made Smith decided that he was the right jockey for Seabiscuit. Smith had many bad habits on the track, and Smith had to work with each one. His worst trait was raising holy hell at the start gate. Smith patiently trained Seabiscuit to stand still. Smith also put Seabiscuit on a strict routine that made him feel more secure. Seabiscuit was soon responding to Pollard's voice and would follow Smith without a lead. Seabiscuit learned to trust Smith and Pollard. This trust became the fountain for the challenges the three will face over the next 5 years. No longer forced against his will, Seabiscuit started to run fast. The whip was only used as a signal, not as a punishment. Polar said that as long as you treat him like a gentleman, he'll run his heart out for you. Seabiscuit was entered into some stake races. He didn't win, but showed courage and speed. They saw the great potential. By early September, Seabiscuit was entered in the Governor's Handicap, the biggest race of the Detroit racing season. Seabiscuit was a long shot, given the big name rivals. The largest crowd in Michigan history turned out for the race, over 28,000 fans. The fans were treated to a spellbinder. Seabiscuit went neck to neck with the leaders who won the race. They celebrated like they just won racing. They celebrated like they just won racing's top race. It was Pollard's fourth stake win after 11 years of racing. Smith noticed Seabiscuit's confidence after the race. He knew he had a new horse. The race transformed Seabiscuit. Smith began to think that Seabiscuit might have a shot at Santa Anita, but wanted to keep his talent a secret. He was afraid that race officials would start giving Seabiscuit a higher impulse. Seabiscuit's competitive nature started to emerge. Taunting other horses became his trademark. He made one of the Howard sprinters exhibit, so mad that the horse refused to run with him again. Seabiscuit also used intimidation to win. He'll slow down to mock a rival or let other horses catch up, only to dash their hopes with a burst of speed. Another Howard horse, Sabi, another Howard horse, Sabeso, was so humiliated by Seabiscuit one day that he refused to eat or sleep for several days. Smith had to trick the horse into thinking that Seabiscuit had left the barn to get him out of his funk. By October 1936, Seabiscuit was ready for a mid-level stakes race. Once again, he was the long shot. It was a close race to the finish, but Seabiscuit dropped his head and won by inches. It was time to return to California for Seabiscuit. He now raided a luxury stall on the train instead of the standard horse stall. Smith checked the horse carefully at every stop. Howard felt like it was retracing the journey he made as a young man. He thought that people better watch out and hold on to their hats. Chapter 6 and Chapter 7 Summary Questions. Number 1. Jockeys travel to Tijuana and rode from fall to spring every year. They define themselves as athletes and men, but often behave otherwise. What did some of the young jockeys in Tijuana do for fun? 1. Visited prostitutes. 2. Played baseball. 3. Chased naked women. 4. Raced horses. 5. Drank. 6. Watched blue movies. Or 7. Went to church. Question 2. How well did Red and Wolf treat the younger jockeys? 1. Poorly. 5. So-so. Or 10. Very well. Question 3. While riding hard one day, Wolf ripped his pants and was sticking out. He entered the winner's circle smiling with the cloth covering himself. How embarrassed did Wolf feel? 1. Not embarrassed. 5. Somewhat embarrassed. Or 10. Very embarrassed. Before the flood, question 4. Before the flood raced through Tijuana, dislodging the high mountain of horse manure, what did the jockeys do with this huge pile? Fertilize gardens, jump in for a sauna, sell samples to fans. Question 5. Polar road. Question 5. Polar road half blind. Wolf risks fainting while riding due to his diabetes. Would you risk your life for a career you love? 1. No, never. 5. Maybe for the right reason. Or 10. Absolutely. Question 6. Seabiscuit was edgy and angry when he first arrived at the Howard barn. Supposedly, he calmed down due to the company of a horse, pumpkin, a dog, and a spider monkey. Do you believe these animals really help Seabiscuit's mood? 1. No, never. 5. Perhaps. Or 10. Absolutely. Has an animal ever helped you feel better? Yes or no? Question 7. What do you think of Smith's approach to improving Seabiscuit's health and ability as a racehorse? 1. Terrible. 5. So-so. Or 10. Excellent. Question 8. Pollard loved to play practical jokes on the younger riders. What kind of joker are you? Do you play practical jokes on others? 1. Never. 5. Sometimes. Or 10. A lot. Question 10. How did the Howard team respond to Seabiscuit's first stakes win in the governor's handicap? 1. Doubtful. 6. Mixed feelings. Or 10. Thrilled. Question 10. Human traits are often given to animals, even though it's impossible to know what an animal thinks. Seabiscuit was known for taunting other horses and mocking them. Do you really believe Seabiscuit was this smart, or do you think these traits were simply imagined by his handlers? 1. No way. 5. Possibly. Or 10. Brilliant. Worksheet B. Question 1. Living on their own, often for the first time, the young jockeys lived wild and free and saw experiences that would have made their mothers cringe. What do you remember about living on your own for the first time? Were there experiences you had that would have made your mother cringe? Write about these experiences and we promise not to tell your mother. Question 2. Wolf was riding hard one day and hadn't noticed that he ripped his pants and was sticking out. How embarrassed do you think he was when he covered himself with a cloth and rode into the winner's circle to pose for pictures? How would you have reacted? Have you experienced anything so embarrassing? Question 3. The Howard team was extremely proud of Seabiscuit for stakes win in the governor's handicap. Talk about an accomplishment in your life. What are you most proud of? Was there ever a time in your life when you rose above others' expectations and accomplished something incredible? Question 4. Seabiscuit was known to taunt and mock other horses and use intimidation to win. Do you think an animal can think like a human in this way? Have you ever known an animal to be this smart? In addition, Seabiscuit had a pet dog and spider monkey that brought him comfort. Talk about some pets in your life that have brought you comfort. Worksheet C. Question 1. Red Polar experienced a disabling injury that seriously threatened his career and safety as a jockey. He kept his injury a secret his entire career. Use keywords or draw a picture to describe Polar's injury. Question 2. What did Polar offer Seabiscuit when they first met? Draw a picture or use keywords to describe what Polar gave Seabiscuit. Question 3. Smith used animal companionship to help calm Seabiscuit down when he first arrived at the Howard barn. Draw a picture or use keywords to describe any of these three special animals. Question 4. What was your favorite part of the chapter? Use keywords to describe this part, or if you prefer, draw a picture.